And during our breaks, the students would be standing there smoking and dropping their cigarettes on the floor and stepping on them.
That doesn't happen too much anymore, and most of our students don't smoke. I can tell you over in Logie, we almost never close that building. Students are in there 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking before we came in that we've got equipment over there that's 12, 13, 14 years old, which for electronic stuff's really old and well used. And boy, it's still in really excellent condition for as old and as much as it's been used.
That's good.
So I think, I think part of that still lives on.
But I think that really hurt my feelings to think that here they'd stand in the hall smoking and then just drop them down. And
what was the feeling and the mood on campus following the burning of Old Main? I know the classes still met the next day.
Oh, they started. But I think that the leadership under Jack Fisher had a lot to do with it. When he came to this campus, he was a young, dynamic man that announced at the very beginning of school that by the end of the 9 months, he would be able to speak to every student by the student's first name. So you know he was dedicated to BV. And he had this power and this desire to see that BV lived. And it could have been the turning point where we died. But he was full of energy, and I think that Ruth was right there at his side helping. So, in fact, I think the whole town rallied around. The drive became much bigger, of course, and our whole perspective was changed. We didn't have this small group having a fundraiser that fall. There was a big affair because we wanted a new building, of course.
I know that a number of people I think we've talked to have indicated that everyone was surprised when Jack announced that classes would meet at 8 a.m. the next day, that a single class was not missed. And that, in and of itself, may have been the one thing that was just the turning point.
I think so, too, because he made, took chaos and made it calm, made everything calm on the campus so that the students would keep in an orderly fashion and everything. What would they have done otherwise? He was a remarkable young man.
It must have been pretty difficult still, I think, to overcome the loss, to go out and start raising more funds than had ever been raised in the history of the college in a sense. Were there any stories, any heroes during those months and weeks following, the people who I guess followed in Jack's leadership and kept the dream alive?
Well, I don't know of any names in particular, but I would say that the teachers themselves were heroes because they kept the classes going and they had to work under difficult situations. And I know Dr. Sampson was very, very dear to me. He'd been the dean of the college when I was here, and he was an older man at the time, and he just kept going. And Dr. Reynolds, the history teacher and government teacher, and these people had been in BV through thick and thin, so people like that, I think they were heroes because they could go ahead from day to day and keep things going.
In the long run, what do you think ultimately was the impact that the burning of Old Main had on the BV campus?
It was like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Because look what we have today. And I think that Storm Lake business people especially took more interest in Buena Vista. They didn't want to lose the college. And so I just feel that because of the fire, Buena Vista has a second life. A more exciting, a greater life than it had when Old Main was alive. It's just too bad that Old Main isn't here to enjoy it and to see what has happened.
I think that there's probably an important lesson there. I mean, I think that I guess at the time, even up to years afterwards, the questions still linger about whether or not the college would be able to continue, how long we could keep going. Those questions seem to be laid to rest now. There's no doubt that the future for BB is secure. It might be easy to forget that we really come from an impossible dream, in a sense, that because of this tragedy, we've become more than anybody ever dared imagine.
We couldn't. I was in school when it got so cold in the rooms that it was down like 59 degrees only, and we still stayed for classes. But we were of sturdy stock, and we wanted an education, and the teachers were willing to work. And the teachers, many of the teachers those days had lived through the Depression with Buena Vista, and they knew what it was.
What's it like personally for you, remembering that first day when you watched the burned out hulk of Old Main and the charred bricks standing there, and you see the campus today 40 years later? What's your reaction to that?
I'm very proud that I'm a part of it. And I'm very proud to think that I was a part of the past, because that way I can truly enjoy and appreciate Buena Vista even more, because I was a part of the Old Main history. I was a part of Old Main before I ever went to college. As a child, I roller skated from the hill at the Old Main down to Smith Hall, and we would come out here and roller skate. I would sit on the steps here. I just loved Old Main. It was a beacon, really, for me.
Where do you think the college will be 40 years from now? The university, rather.
I don't know. I don't know that we will grow that much more in the next 40 years, but we've had good leadership, and I feel that we've always had a wonderful group of trustees. The alumni board has been active through the years, and with people like this, and as long as Buena Vista continues to serve everybody as well as they have, and put out students into the world that we can be proud of, we're going to be the best college, university there is.
Anything else you'd like to add from your memories about the campus before the big change and the things that have happened since then?
Well, I don't know. I was Keyhole Kate for the TAC and enjoyed that. I actually did get some of my gossip through the keyhole, and I had to work very hard in order to go to college because my mother was a widow with 6 children. But I'm just very happy. I've always have been that I was a part of Buena Vista.
Good. Any questions you'd like to ask? I think that's terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you especially for coming in today. I mean,
Well, that's all right.
we wanted to shoot this in some of the newer settings to sort of contrast with the old, so it's nice to have people come in.
Now that we're through, I'll tell you one episode that happened. We were going to have a party down in Beaver Hall, and I, as short as I am, I'm standing on a step putting some decorations up, and this young man came down the steps and he pulls it down. And I just hauled off and I swatted him right across the face. And I looked up, and at the top of the steps is the dean of the college. And he says, "Do it again, Lorraine, you deserved it."
Was that
Dr. Sampson.
Oh yeah.
That dear man, you know, he was out in the nursing home for quite a long time. And one morning I had taken communion out to the Catholic people, and I said, before I go, I'm going to run in and say hello to Dr. Sampson. So he was all dressed, just lying there. And of course, he couldn't see well, and he couldn't hear well. So I just got down on my knees, and I said, "Dr. Sampson, it's Lorraine." He says, "It's about time." He was in his 90s. And Reynolds, I dearly loved Reynolds. He was so God blessed. In Old Main, he held classes for government and history. And one night I stayed out till 3 in the morning sitting on the dock down there by the Pioneer. It was a beautiful moonlight night. We just sat there talking. But the next morning I have a test. And usually I could write 3 blue books and outline it. That day I couldn't even understand the questions. And I was ashamed to get up before the 2 hours was up. So when the papers came back, mine wasn't among them. And there were 26 in this government class. And everyone's saying, "What'd you get? What'd you get?" And I said, "Gosh, he didn't bring my paper back." But I also took contemporary history of England at the same time. And I said, maybe he'll just have it with that. And God bless that dear Reynolds. He had slipped my F paper in behind my A paper, my little A blue book. And so I opened it and I saw that, and I looked up at him, and I said, and he goes, so nobody knew I got an F, but just dear Reynolds.
Well, great. Well, thank you.
Well,
very,
you're
very
so
much.
welcome.
We're going to take that clip off you here, so
Oh, that's right.
you don't stay wired up.